Think like someone who lives with abundance within themselves. Act like someone who knows their own path well and trusts their own strength, even if they don't yet see the results. Begin to make firm decisions, as if success were already guaranteed in your destiny. Now imagine you're absolutely certain everything will work out. What would you do today without any fear? What step would you take without looking back? What excuse would you let go of once and for all? There's a powerful energy in this kind of thinking. It frees you from doubt and takes you straight to the realm of action, where ideas grow and dreams begin to become reality. Those who think abundantly act with calm, focus, and clarity. But those who remain trapped in scarcity retreat, get confused and limit themselves, even though they have enormous power hidden within, waiting to be used. This video is about exactly that. Awakening the strength that lies dormant within you, breaking the cycle of lack, and proving that when you see yourself as already worthy, everything transforms: your outlook, your energy, your results. And it all starts with something small. Right here in the comments. Today I act with abundance. I'm part of the story, especially if you're the type who usually ignores this part, because this is your first true victory, breaking out of inertia. No change comes without action. So let's take the first step now. 1. Don't limit yourself by fear of what others will think. Nothing holds you back like the fear of what others will think. You know what you want to say, you feel the urge to act. But as soon as you think about expressing yourself, your mind already conjures up scenes of dirty looks, hidden laughter, and comments that might not even exist. You stop posting because you imagine they'll make fun of you. You avoid trying something new because you already hear inside your head voices of people who haven't even opened their mouths. This fear is treacherous. It doesn't hold you back with shouts. It convinces you with arguments. It'll seem forced. It's not the right time. What if no one likes it? And so you begin to keep your ideas to yourself, silence your opinions, and hide your gifts. Little by little, you lose the habit of acting independently. Are you afraid of being seen as exaggerated, misunderstood, or that no one will understand you? That's okay. Everyone who has truly grown has been through this. The difference is that they moved forward despite the fear, because they chose to be true to themselves rather than seek applause. The fear of feeling like an imposter is the toll of those who are changing phases. Pay it and move on. The truth may hurt, but it sets you free. People already judge you anyway. Even if you remain silent, even if you strive to please, even if you hide, someone at some point will criticize. So why not be judged for being who you truly are? It's better to be criticized for being authentic than to be applauded for maintaining a mask. Consider a simple example. A woman dreams of creating a recipe channel, but never records because she's embarrassed by her own voice. She keeps comparing herself to those with more experience, forgetting that everyone starts from scratch and sabotaging herself before even taking the first step. Meanwhile, someone else with less technique and fewer resources, but more courage, goes out there, records, makes mistakes, improves and grows. Epictetus said, "If you want to be good, accept appearing foolish." This means accept the discomfort at first. Accept not pleasing everyone. Accept appearing strange for a while. Because this discomfort is the price of freedom. If you don't have the courage to be who you are, you'll end up living a script written by others, and the world will never know your true light. Freedom arises when you stop asking for permission to exist, and when that happens, everything changes. Your way of walking, your decisions, the people around you. Those who stop bowing to the judgment of others finally learn to walk with their heads held high. If you feel that this shift has already begun within you, right here, I no longer ask for permission to be who I am, because those who live with an abundance mindset know that the only approval that truly matters is their own. 2. Abundant people have presence. Even before you open your mouth, the world already captures the message you convey, because the way you walk, sit, look, and occupy the space around you speaks for you, even without a sound. Your body is a silent yet powerful language. It shows how much you respect yourself, how much you believe in yourself, and how prepared you are to grow. If you live with your head down, speak in a low voice, avoid eye contact, and move as if apologizing for existing, this isn't just a sign of insecurity, it's also a way of feeding it without realizing it. When you shrink on the outside, your brain learns to shrink on the inside too. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine you're leaving your dream home, getting into the car you've always wanted, heading to the most important date of your life, wearing an outfit that makes you feel powerful. What would your posture be like? You'd take a deep breath, keep your gaze steady, and walk with confidence. And here's the secret: this feeling can be brought into the present. You can move now as someone who is already building that future. When you do, your energy shifts and your mind follows suit, because the brain constantly observes the body and adjusts its self-image accordingly. That's why simple actions, lifting your chin, straightening your spine, looking steadily, speaking clearly, are so powerful. They're not just pretty gestures, they're identity exercises. They're ways of teaching your body who's in charge. Epictetus said, "No one is free until they learn to master themselves." And this mastery begins with what you communicate without realizing it. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not, but rather aligning your body with the version of yourself you've already chosen to become, that part of you that's just emerging and just needs space to blossom. You don't need expensive clothes, but you do need intention, presence, gestures that say, "I know my place here." Because those who walk with purpose, even without having all the answers, already exude confidence. Today, observe your body, the tone of your voice, the way you sit, and ask yourself, does this match who I'm becoming? Or does it still reflect the old version I've decided to leave behind? Change begins with the body. A new identity comes soon after, and those who live abundantly understand this. They don't just think differently, they move as if they already know where they're going. Affirm this now. Write in the comments, "My presence already carries my future," because when the body begins to act with purpose, the mind begins to believe that anything can happen. 3. Invest in competence before recognition. We live in an age where the appearance of success is often worth more than the success itself. People want to be seen as competent before they actually become competent. They want applause before effort, respect before dedication, authority before experience. But the truth is that recognition without foundation is like a castle made of smoke, beautiful from afar, fragile on the inside, and crumbling at the first breath of reality. True strength comes from what you build in silence, from what no one sees, but which sustains everything the world will one day see. Epictetus said, "Do not seek to appear wise, seek to be wise." This simple and direct phrase holds transformative power, because it reminds us that what gives a name its value is not praise, but deeds. You can deceive for a while, but never forever. Time reveals what marketing hides. Competence is like a seed. It takes time to appear, but when it blooms, no one can ignore it. Recognition, on the other hand, is like a cut flower. It can be displayed immediately, but it dies quickly because it has no roots. The problem is that many people fall in love with the stage before mastering their craft. They publish before studying, teach before learning, and want to be a reference without going through the forge. But the world respects results, not rhetoric. Consistency speaks louder than any image. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man's work is to be good at his work." This is the philosophy of competence, delivering excellence not because others are watching, but because that's how dignity is built. Being competent isn't about natural talent. It's about patience, humility, and practice. It's waking up early when no one is asking, reviewing what already seems good, seeking clarity where most settle for confusion. It's failing 10 times and adjusting the method the 11th time. It's transforming each mistake into a learning experience. Competence is what remains when the enthusiasm fades. It's what remains when the applause fades. And the curious thing is that when you focus on competence, recognition comes as a consequence. But when you focus only on being recognized, you lose both mastery and peace. Seneca wrote, "Glory follows virtue as the shadow follows the body." This means that recognition is inevitable when value is real. You don't have to chase it. You just need to become so good, so prepared, so trustworthy, that the world has no choice but to notice. This is how true masters operate. They don't need to prove themselves. Their actions speak for themselves. And the respect they earn doesn't come from promises, but from consistent delivery. While many are distracted by trying to appear relevant, they are busy refining their skills, learning from their mistakes, observing in silence. It is in this silence that greatness matures. Think of a craftsman shaping a piece. He spends hours sanding, adjusting, and correcting small details that no one would otherwise notice. But he knows that in the end, this is what will make the difference between something ordinary and something extraordinary. So it is in life. The watchful eyes of the world only appear after the invisible work is complete. The rush for recognition is the shortcut of the insecure. Investing in competence is the path of those who build a legacy. Being good at what you do is a form of freedom, because no one can take away from you what you master with excellence. You can lose your job, your opportunity, your stage, but you don't lose the skill you carry within. And that's what keeps you going in difficult times. So, instead of seeking the spotlight, seek depth. Instead of chasing titles, seek mastery. Instead of chasing approval, seek evolution. Learn, practice, refine. And when the opportunity arrives, and it always does, you'll be ready. And the beautiful thing is that when competence becomes part of who you are, recognition stops being a necessity and becomes simply a natural consequence. Right here in the comments, I invest in competence before recognition, because the world may applaud a fleeting glow, but it only respects those who build their own light, the one that doesn't depend on the gaze of others to stay lit. 4. Use criticism as raw material. Criticism can be one of the most destructive or one of the most constructive forces in someone's life. It all depends on how you choose to use it. Most people react to criticism like someone being hit with a rock. They shut down, defend themselves, and get angry. But wise people treat it as raw material, a rough stone that, when polished with care, becomes a tool for growth. The difference between those who grow and those who are offended lies in a simple detail: what they do with what they hear. Epictetus said, "If someone calls you stupid and you're not, why get upset? And if you are, why get upset?" This seemingly ironic phrase carries a profound truth. Criticism only hurts when it touches something unresolved within us. If you're clear about who you are and what you're building, criticism becomes a mirror, sometimes uncomfortable, but necessary. What hurts you reveals what still needs work. What bothers you shows where ego still lingers. What irritates you indicates what you haven't yet mastered. So, use criticism as a map. Instead of reacting, observe. Is there any truth here? Is this person, even with harsh words, pointing out something I can improve? Or is it just noise coming from someone who doesn't understand my path? Knowing this is what separates the wise from the impulsive. Because not all criticism is fair, but all criticism can be useful if used correctly. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, he wrote to himself, "If someone shows you a mistake, be grateful, because they helped you correct what was leading you astray." He understood that being corrected is a gift in disguise. It's the world showing you indirectly where there's still room for growth. The problem is that the ego wants to be right. The disciplined mind wants to improve. And you need to choose which of the two to feed. Transforming criticism into raw material is an act of emotional intelligence and humility. It means not reacting in the heat of the moment, but rather holding on, reflecting, and only then deciding what to do with it. Often the criticism that irritates you today is the same one that saves you a few months from now. Have you noticed how over time some old criticisms start to make sense? This happens because maturity gives you the necessary distance to see that, deep down, what seemed like an attack was a warning. But it's also true that there are criticisms that add nothing, empty comments driven by envy or ignorance. And herein lies another secret of wisdom. Not every criticism deserves a response. The Stoic doesn't waste time trying to convince those who aren't ready to understand. He understands that another person's judgment speaks more about the other person than about him. That's why Marcus Aurelius said, "Other people's opinions are their own." In other words, don't carry burdens that aren't yours. The practice is simple, but powerful. When you're criticized, breathe. Ask yourself, is this a mirror or noise? If it's a mirror, be grateful and learn. If it's noise, be silent and move on. Because responding to everything is wasting energy. And energy is your greatest resource. Save it for building, not reacting. Criticism, when used well, is the forger of character. It sharpens you, hardens you, and prepares you for greater levels of responsibility. It is through friction that steel becomes a sword. And it is through criticism that a strong mindset is formed. With every harsh word, there is an opportunity to practice patience. With every unfair judgment, a chance to strengthen serenity. With each correct answer, a reminder that you are still evolving. So don't shy away from criticism, study it. Don't defend yourself, understand it. And most importantly, don't hold a grudge, use it. Because whoever learns to transform what the world throws at them into fuel becomes unshakable. After all, criticism only brings down those who haven't yet built solid foundations. But for those with a purpose, they become stepping stones. Right here in the comments, I transform criticism into raw material. Because from the moment you understand that even pain can be a tool, nothing can stop you. 5. Act like an abundant person. Many talented people end up letting small, silly, and unimportant things hinder their progress. The problem isn't a lack of talent, but the habit of sabotaging yourself. Everything you nurture with attention grows. This applies to your actions, your thoughts, and most importantly, how you see yourself. If you keep telling yourself you're not ready yet, that something's missing, that it's not the right time, your brain starts to protect you from what you want most. It starts to believe that trying is dangerous, that the safest thing to do is stay put, and it starts closing doors before you even get close to them. This isn't self-help talk, it's pure biology. Inside your head, there's a system called the reticular activating system, which acts as a natural filter. It decides what will capture your attention based on what you believe most, think most, and hope for most. In other words, if you live expecting a lack, it will miss opportunities for growth. But if you act like someone who already has value, who already has something good to offer, who already belongs in the place you dream of achieving, your brain switches sides and starts supporting you. It sparks ideas, brings people together, creates pathways. It changes your behavior, and the world responds accordingly. Imagine two people in the same situation. Both have been asked to lead an important meeting. The first spends the day repeating in her head, "I'm no good at this, I'll mess up. The others are better." When the time comes, she shrinks, avoids eye contact, and forgets what she was going to say. The second woman thinks differently. If they chose me, it's because they saw something in me. I may be nervous, but I have something useful to offer. She takes a deep breath, stands up firmly, and speaks clearly and confidently. What changed? The content was almost the same. The difference was in the identity each chose to wear before acting. Epictetus once said, "What matters is not what happens to you, but how you react." And this reaction doesn't begin at the moment of the challenge, but long before it. It begins in the thoughts you harbor, the words you repeat, and the posture you silently practice every day. So, if you want to live abundantly, stop acting like someone who's always behind, always lacking, always waiting for a sign to feel worthy. Act like someone who already has value, who's already built a foundation, who's already prepared for the next level. If you want your mind to move with your progress, direct your attention to what strengthens you. Think, speak, and move like someone who has already achieved what they desire, because that's how the mind learns and how life changes. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments, "Today I act with the confidence of someone who already is." This is the first step to living as a truly abundant person. 6. Learn to act as if success is already real. Imagine an actor about to go on stage. He hasn't heard applause yet. He doesn't know if the audience will like him, but he still takes a deep breath, walks with a firm stance, and speaks as if he's already in character. He doesn't wait for approval to act. He acts first, and recognition comes later. The same thing happens to you. Before achievement comes attitude, before results comes energy. If you want to change your life, you need to start acting like someone who is already on the path to what you desire. This is how the mind learns. The brain can't differentiate between what is real and what is imagined with conviction. So, when you behave like the person you want to become, it begins to believe it and develops new habits of thinking, feeling, and acting. This process is called mental reprogramming, and it all starts with something simple yet powerful: acting as if victory is already guaranteed. It's not about thinking you're better than others. It's about living with focus, purpose, and certainty, as if success is already approaching. This attitude changes the tone of your voice, the strength of your energy, and transforms the way people see you. Think of someone starting a business. If they act with doubt, everyone notices. Their voice trembles, their body shrinks, and they feel insecure. And even if you have talent, no one trusts you. Why? Because they don't trust themselves. Now imagine that same person believing in what they do. Even without results yet, they speak firmly, look you in the eye, and convey purpose. And this attracts respect, interest, and open doors. People trust those who trust themselves. Marcus Aurelius said, "What blocks the path becomes the path." This means that fear, doubt, and judgment, everything that seems to hold you back, can become the impulse that moves you forward. But to do so, you need to take the first step. Don't wait until you feel ready. Act like someone who has already decided to move forward. Act like someone who already knows they will win. If today were the day everything started to fall into place, how would you behave? What clothes would you wear? What look would you have? What energy would you display? So start living like this now. Act with determination until it becomes natural. Strive to think clearly until it becomes a part of you. Practice courage until it walks beside you effortlessly. To experience abundance, you first need to think, speak, and move like someone who already lives in it, even if, from the outside, it doesn't yet look that way. This isn't pretending, it's identity training. And abundant people do this every day. If this change has already begun in you, write in the comments, "I'm practicing my victory." Because when this happens, you stop chasing the result and start attracting what was already waiting for you. 7. Strategic gratitude as fuel. Gratitude, when deeply understood, is not a sentimental gesture, it's a power strategy. It shifts your mental state, refocuses, and redefines how you interpret the world. While many treat gratitude as an emotional adornment, those who truly grow use it as fuel. Because understanding what you already have is what frees up energy to achieve what you still lack. Those who live in lack live drained. Those who live in gratitude live fueled. The Stoics viewed gratitude as a tool for clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Think of all you already possess and recognize how much you would have desired it if it were not yours." This simple reflection transforms scarcity into abundance. The problem is that the human mind tends to adapt quickly to achievements. What was once a dream is now routine, and without realizing it, you begin to see life through what is still missing, not through what has already blossomed. It is this distorted perspective that breeds frustration, comparison, and fatigue. Strategic gratitude is the antidote. It restores perspective and strength. Being strategically grateful isn't about ignoring what's wrong. It's about adjusting your focus to see what sustains you. It's about recognizing the base before aiming for the top. It's about remembering that simply being able to try is a privilege. When you shift your perspective, your mind reorganizes. Neuroscience proves this. The act of giving thanks activates areas of the brain linked to motivation and reward, reducing cortisol and increasing the sense of control. In other words, gratitude isn't passivity, it's emotional performance. It makes you calmer, clear-headed, and more productive. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. The first only sees the obstacle, complains, gets discouraged, and feels like a victim. The second recognizes the hidden learning there, They understand that each difficulty is shaping their patience, discipline, and courage. While the first person wears down, the second grows stronger. The problem isn't the pain, but the lens through which you view it. Gratitude changes that lens. It doesn't eliminate the weight, but it gives you the strength to carry it without breaking. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens that disturbs us, but how we interpret it." Being grateful is exactly that, reinterpreting reality from the perspective of abundance. It's understanding that every moment, good or bad, brings something to be used. Gratitude doesn't negate the challenge, but transforms the challenge into fuel. When you give thanks even for difficult times, suffering ceases to be an enemy and becomes a teacher. But strategic gratitude goes beyond feeling. It requires practice. Start with simple rituals. When you wake up, mentally list 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. It could be your health, the quiet of the morning, or the hot coffee. At the end of the day, write down what you learned, even if it was a tough day. This exercise realigns your brain with the present, preventing your mind from getting stuck on what's missing. Another powerful practice is to give thanks before the outcome. This teaches the brain to trust the process, not just the reward. When you give thanks along the way, each step ceases to be a burden and becomes part of the privilege of being alive. Gratitude also acts as a filter against comparison. Instead of looking at what others have, you refocus on what you've built. And, paradoxically, it's when you recognize what you already have that you become capable of achieving more, because you move from the vibration of lack to the movement of creation. Seneca said, "Nothing is more honorable than gratitude." And perhaps he was right, because gratitude is the state of mind of the strong. Complaining is easy, giving thanks is a choice, and that choice changes the axis of your life. Starting today, practice gratitude not as a consolation, but as a strategy. Use it to regain focus, energy, and balance. When something goes wrong, ask, "What can this still teach me?" When something goes right, ask, "What can I learn from this?" And write here in the comments, "Today, gratitude is my fuel," because in the end, those who learn to be grateful for what they have create space to receive what they've always dreamed of, and they do so with serenity, not in haste. 8. Abundant people carefully choose the voice they listen to within. You don't wait until you're thirsty until you pass out to remember to drink water, right? So why do you still insist on abandoning yourself to the point of breaking down? The way you talk to yourself says a lot about who you're becoming. Your words shape your strength, your confidence, and how you react when life tests you. The problem is that many people don't move forward in life because of one thing, an inner voice that misspoke. Want to change? Then change your tone. Speak to yourself as you would to someone you truly love. It's not about showering yourself with false praise. It's about treating yourself with care and respect. It's about learning to correct yourself without destroying yourself, to guide yourself without embarrassing yourself. Become your own ally, not your enemy. Because what you listen to silently every day creates the foundation of your visible life. Phrases like, "I'm bad at this, I'll never make it," or "this isn't for me," seem silly, but they repeat themselves until they become background music in your mind. And your brain, which learns everything you repeat, doesn't question it. It simply records and responds. Science calls this neuroplasticity, but the ancients knew it millennia ago. Marcus Aurelius said, "The color of your thoughts paints the color of your life." In other words, what you repeat becomes belief. What you believe shapes your reality. Gradually, the habit of diminishing yourself becomes your identity, and the limits you feel become the limits you've created. And then you ask, "Why can't I change?" But how can you change if you keep telling yourself the same old story? Consider an example. Someone decides to go back to school after many years. They buy the materials, start excitedly, but at the first mistake, the old voice creeps in. "You're too old for this," or "You don't even understand the basics." Instead of keeping trying, they believe this voice and give up. Now imagine the same scenario, but with a different voice. Every beginning is difficult, but the important thing is that you had courage. Making mistakes is a sign of growth. It's better to stumble while learning than to give up before discovering how far you can go. See the difference? This isn't self-help talk, it's genuine support. Because no one abandons a dream because they lack the ability. People give up because they feel alone in their own minds. Epictetus said, "Your mind will be what you teach it to be." And shaping the mind is retraining the voice that lives within it. Your brain obeys the tone you use. If you call yourself stupid, it believes you. If you remind yourself that you're learning, it relaxes and absorbs better. This difference changes everything. How you learn, how you handle criticism, and how you pick yourself up after mistakes. You don't have to pretend you're always right, but you do need to stop attacking yourself. Think like a good coach, firm but fair, correct but without humiliating, demand but also support. Because the voice you cultivate in silence becomes the identity the world sees. If you want to live abundantly, start within yourself, replacing harsh, destructive speech with language that helps you grow. Right here, I am changing the voice that lives inside me. Because those who learn to treat themselves with respect begin to achieve everything that previously seemed impossible. 9. Turn routine into ritual. Turning routine into ritual is the difference between living on autopilot and living with purpose. Most people wake up, rush, work, eat, sleep, all in sequence, without pause, without presence, as if life were a task to be accomplished. But those who truly grow discover something simple. Power lies not in doing more, but in give meaning to what you do every day. An ordinary gesture, when done with awareness, becomes a portal to clarity. And this is what the Stoics called attention to the present moment, the art of transforming everyday life into a practice of wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, said, "When you wake, remember that being alive is already a gift." This phrase, repeated silently every morning, changes the tone of the day. When you begin with intention, every action gains depth. Brushing your teeth, making coffee, making your bed, none of these are trivial when done with presence. Each small movement becomes a training ground for focus and self-discipline. This is how serenity is built, not in grand events, but in conscious repetitions. Routine without soul is tiring. Meaningful ritual energizes. The difference between the two is intention. When you do something just because you have to, you're emptying yourself. But when you do it because decided to be whole at that moment, is filling up. And the mind perceives this difference. Neuroscience calls it mindfulness, what ancient philosophers called inner presence. It's the same principle. The brain learns to interpret your actions as signals of priority. Everything done mindfully becomes a reminder of who you are becoming. Think of a warrior sharpening his sword. He makes the same movement every day, but never sees it as routine. Each strike is a practice of patience, focus, and control. Your sword is a reflection of your spirit. So is your routine. The way you perform small tasks reflects the state of your mind. If you do it haphazardly, you're distracted. If you do it with intention, you build silent strength. The Stoics saw everyday life as a moral training ground. Epictetus said, "It is not what we do, but how we do it that reveals who we are." This means that even the act of working, responding to messages, or organizing your own space can be a practice of virtue. When you decide that each gesture is a way of aligning yourself with your values, boredom disappears. The day ceases to be something to endure and becomes a space for continuous growth. But turning routine into ritual requires practical choices. First, set anchors for your day small, fixed moments that reconnect you. It could be a cup of coffee without your phone, a short walk without headphones, a minute of breathing before starting work. These simple gestures act as realignment pauses, reminders that you're not just reacting, but deciding the direction of your energy. Second, associate your habits with a greater purpose. Don't go to the gym just for aesthetics, but to honor your body as an instrument of life. Don't organize your space just for cleanliness, but for mental clarity. When the mind understands why, the body responds more powerfully. Purpose is the fuel of sustainable habit. Third, remove excess. Too much routine becomes a prison. Too much ritual becomes a burden. The secret is to simplify. Do less, but with more presence. Don't try to fit in 20 self-care practices. Choose 3 that connect you with your essence and repeat them until they become part of you. Over time, something changes. What was once an obligation becomes a pleasure. What was once a chore becomes a direction. Because the true power of routine lies in building emotional consistency. It's what sustains you when motivation wanes. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man's life is what his thoughts make it." I would say, your life is what your rituals make it, because they shape your mind every day, even when you don't realize it. So, choose a small gesture today and turn it into a ritual. It could be writing for 5 minutes, meditating for 2, or simply giving thanks before bed. Make it a sacred act, not religious but human. A daily reminder that greatness doesn't come from grandiose moments, but from how you experience the ordinary. Write here in the comments, "Today I'm turning routine into ritual," because those who learn to put soul into what they do discover that peace isn't in the future, it's in the silent rhythm of well-done actions every day. 10. Abundant people see themselves with greatness. You may have studied, you may be talented, you may even have all the opportunities in the world before you. But if deep down you still see yourself as small, incapable, or worthless, your life will continue to reflect this mistaken view of yourself. Because in the end, what guides your decisions isn't what others say, but what you believe about who you are when you're alone. It's like trying to build a castle on soft sand. No matter how beautiful it looks, if the foundation is weak, it will fall at the first strong wind. Abundant people aren't born ready. They decide day after day to act as someone who is growing, but already deserving of the life they want to live. Think carefully. How many times have you sabotaged yourself by thinking you weren't enough? You accepted less than you wanted, kept quiet to avoid disturbing others, or apologized for simply existing when what you needed was to assert yourself. Now imagine the same scene, but with you moving like an abundant person, someone who recognizes their worth even while still learning. Someone who doesn't accept crumbs because they know what they carry inside. And this shows in the way they speak, in their gaze, in their posture, in their energy. Epictetus said, "Nothing great comes suddenly. If you want a fig, wait for the fruit to ripen." You may not wake up tomorrow feeling strong as a rock, but you can start today acting like someone who is building that strength. And that's where the turning point lies. It's not about pretending to be someone you're not, but practicing the strongest, wisest version of yourself, most aligned with the future you want to live. It's like training your best self until it becomes second nature. And the more you repeat this, the easier it becomes. Your brain learns by example, and the example comes from you. If you treat yourself as weak, every gesture confirms that weakness. But if you start treating yourself with respect, with presence, with inner authority, the world gets the message. I am not what I suffered. I am the strength I chose to develop. You are not the name they gave you, nor the mistake you made. You are the choice you make now about who you want to be. Maybe before you didn't know how to protect yourself, how to value yourself, or how to act differently. But today you know, and that is power. Every time you assert yourself, even when afraid, every time you value yourself, even without applause, you are creating a new reflection. And in this reflection, there is no victim. There is someone evolving, with awareness, courage, and direction. If this is the identity you want to strengthen, write here in the comments. I choose to see myself with greatness, because that is how truly abundant people live. 11. Abundant people pay the price before the reward. Anyone who has reached your destination first faced the weight of effort before tasting the taste of victory. They woke up when their body was crying out for rest, chose focus when the rest of the world chose distraction. Even when they felt like giving up, they kept their pace steady and followed the right path, not the easy one. If what you seek is freedom, purpose, and self-respect, start now acting like someone who is already on that path. Every difficult decision today is a brick placed in the future you want to live in. Want to be disciplined? Then act like someone disciplined. Get up, even if bed calls you. Want to be recognized? Then study, practice, keep going, even if no one is watching. Want a peaceful future? Learn to take care of the present. Organize your finances. Live within your means. Say the no's you need to say and adjust your direction. You don't have to wait for achievement to act as if it's already yours. Quite the opposite. When you start acting as if you've already arrived, the path begins to open. Think of an athlete. They haven't yet reached the podium, but they already train like a champion. They eat like a champion. They sleep like a champion. And, as the body strengthens, the mind already believes, this is part of who I am. Marcus Aurelius said, that which is hard to bear becomes valuable once overcome, because effort is not punishment, it is construction. It is the silent way of saying to the world, I know where I want to go and I am willing to pay the price. The mistake is to think that effort comes after success, when in fact, effort and success in motion. Every time you choose what demands more, the book over distraction, the workout over laziness, silence over knee-jerk reaction, you're not just being strong, you're rehearsing the life of the person you want to become. So ask yourself, if I were already this person, what choices would I make naturally? Start with these. Don't know how. Observe who has already reached where you want to be. Want to be healthy? See how they think. Want to be successful? Study their routine, their limits, their relationship with money. Want to be calm? Notice how they react when things get out of control. Want to be generous? Observe how they approach life. Don't admire from afar. Practice. Because when you start moving with an abundance mindset, even before you see the results, the world notices. Doors that seemed locked begin to open. People sense your determination, your focus, your presence, and opportunities that previously ignored you begin to see you. Abundance doesn't just happen. It responds to the level of consciousness with which you live. The more you act like someone committed to what you want to build, the more life understands that you are ready to receive. If you're already on this path right here, I'm paying the price for my evolution, because life demands it of everyone, but only those who pay with courage receive with consistency. 12. Abundant people choose who they hang out with. Your mind only truly begins to open when you stop clinging to the things that limit your perspective. It's not that you can't grow. Maybe you're just trying to flourish in dry terrain. Places filled with negativity, shallow conversations, people who repeat, "This is impossible." All of this is limiting your growth space and weakening your confidence, even if you don't realize it. But when you surround yourself with people who think big, who have already built something beyond the ordinary, who speak clearly about focus, progress, and purpose, everything starts to make more sense. The idea of achieving something bigger no longer seems distant. Think about it. If you live in an environment where earning $10,000 a month is a miracle, any ambitious goal will sound crazy. But if you hang out with people who earn $10,000 a week, you'll realize it's not luck or magic. It's attitude, it's mindset, it's discipline. And that's where the turning point happens. What once seemed impossible becomes a reference. What once sounded exaggerated becomes natural. Because when you connect with those who already live what you dream of living, your mind stops seeing it as fantasy and starts seeing it as an action plan. Epictetus once said, "We become what we contemplate." This means that what you see, hear, and absorb in your daily life shapes what you believe is possible. And it is this belief that sets the pace of your change. If you feel stuck today, perhaps you don't need new goals, but new mirrors. Look for people who inspire you to grow without guilt, places that awaken your courage, and real-life examples that prove it's possible to go further, even from where you came from. You don't need to cut anyone out of your life, but you do need to learn to balance. Who do you listen to attentively? Who do you let influence your way of thinking? And who should receive only a simple good morning and nothing more? People with an abundance mindset don't isolate themselves, but carefully choose who they surround themselves with. They know that their environment doesn't define everything, but it can accelerate or hinder any progress. So, if you want to live a fulfilling life, start now. Tell yourself, if it was possible for someone else, it can be possible for me too. And if this message resonated with you, write in the comments, I'm surrounding myself with what strengthens me. Because sometimes, changing your environment is the first step to creating a new reality. 13. Abundant people treat challenges as part of the journey. Everyone wants to improve, but almost no one wants to be put to the test. But there's no growth without confrontation. Those who dream of experiencing something greater need to stop running away from situations that test their strength. Challenges aren't punishments, they're invitations to overcome. They're doors that separate wanting from actually deciding. Life won't ask you if you're ready. It will simply place an obstacle in front of you out of nowhere and observe. Will you shrink back, or will you use it as fuel to go further? Many people, at the first sign of difficulty, give up. They see the problem as an attack, as if the world were against them. But abundant people see it differently. They take a deep breath, organize their thoughts, and treat the challenge as a training session. They know that making mistakes is part of the journey, but standing still is never a choice. Think of a long race. At the beginning, everyone seems full of energy, but the truth emerges halfway through. When that hill appears that demands everything from body and mind, that's when it becomes clear who just wanted to show off and who is truly committed to finishing. Some complain, slow down, and look around for excuses. Others speed up, understanding that the climb isn't the end, just a filter between comfort and victory. Marcus Aurelius said, "The gods don't give you what you want, but what you need to grow." And often, what you need most is precisely what takes you out of control. A criticism that awakens you, a failure that teaches you, a pain that transforms you. Life isn't trying to destroy you. It's shaping you, molding you for what comes next. If you run away from every difficulty, you'll never discover what you're truly made of. It's not the problem that blocks you, it's the way you see it. When you change your perspective, everything changes with it. Pain can become strength. A fall can become momentum. An obstacle can become preparation. So tell yourself now, life isn't against me, it's building me. And right here in the comments, I turn every challenge into a stepping stone. Because that's exactly how abundant people walk. They don't shy away from the climb. They climb with purpose, knowing that each difficult step brings them closer to greatness. 14. Protect your focus as your greatest asset. Protecting your focus is protecting your lifeblood. It's the invisible engine behind everything you build, and yet it's the one most dispersed by daily distractions. Every notification, every pointless conversation, every thought that drags you away from what truly matters steals a piece of your clarity. Focus isn't lost all at once. It drains slowly until you realize the day is over and nothing essential has been accomplished. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket. No matter how hard you try, the result always slips through the cracks. The human mind has limited energy. When you scatter it in 1,000 directions, you weaken its ability to act profoundly in any of them. And modern society knows this. That's why it competes for your attention like gold. Every app, every video, every alert is designed to capture seconds of your attention and turn them into profit. The price is your concentration. The philosopher Seneca warned, "Life is long enough if we know how to use it well." But no one can use time well if they don't master their attention. Focus is the filter that separates what has value from what merely takes up space. Think of an archer. He doesn't hit the target because he's lucky, but because he eliminates everything that distracts him. The wind, the noise, the movement around him. A focused mind works the same way. It learns to hear what's essential and silence the rest. The problem is that many confuse focus with rigidity. Focus isn't about shutting out the world. It's about choosing where to put your energy. It's knowing that when you say yes to something important, you need to say no to dozens of other good things, but irrelevant to your purpose. Stoic philosophy teaches that freedom begins when we learn to control what depends on us. Your attention is one of these few domains. Epictetus said, "No one is free until he becomes master of himself." This means that as long as your mind reacts to any stimulus, you are not in control. You are directed by everything and everyone. Regaining focus is an act of silent rebellion against collective distraction. But how do you do this in a world that constantly demands your attention? The first step is to create an environment that supports your purpose. If your phone is your main source of distraction, it can't always be within reach. Leave it in another room when you need to think. Set clear times for consuming information and sacred times for creating. Turn off unnecessary notifications and silence what doesn't contribute. Focus isn't born from willpower, it's born from design. A clean environment is an invitation to mental clarity. The second step is internal focus. There's no point in eliminating external distractions if your mind remains noisy. Every time you catch yourself jumping from idea to idea, take a deep breath and ask, what really needs my attention right now? This simple question is a return to the present, and the present is the only place where action exists. Attention is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. 5 minutes of total presence are worth more than 5 hours of distraction. It's also important to remember that focus isn't just concentration, it's direction. A person can work intensely all day, but if they're aiming in the wrong direction, they'll only tire faster. Focus without purpose turns into anxiety. So, start each morning by remembering why you do what you do. Write down your goals, even if they're small. The simple act of putting down what you want to accomplish brings order to mental chaos and prevents energy from being lost in random tasks. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations said, "Think of everything you do as if it were the last act of your life." This is a form of extreme focus. When you approach each task with this sense of importance, distractions lose their power. Your gaze narrows, your mind aligns, and time gains density. Profundity replaces haste, and simplicity regains its value. So protect your focus as your most precious asset. Don't surrender it to any distraction disguised as urgency. Choose what deserves your energy, and ignore the rest with the same determination as someone protecting a treasure. Because that's what focus is, the guardian of your future. Right here in the comments. Today, I choose to protect my attention. Because it is there that the power to transform any effort into real results resides. But there is a catch. If you've been trying for a long time to get out of conformity and ignorance, and you can't do it in any way, maybe it's for other reasons that you don't know what's causing this. But I know what it is. It's anxiety. Anxiety comes like a silent snake and poisons you without you feeling it. This leaves you infected for days, months, and even years. And if you have that, it would be like living sick. However, there is an antidote from the Stoics, which together with modern psychology can free you from all this, just as it freed me. I made a video showing how you can get rid of this poison in your life. It's in the first comment. Click on the link in the first comment and cure yourself of this poison of anxiety. 15. Say no to make room for the right yes. Saying no is one of the highest forms of wisdom. It's a silent yet profoundly transformative act. Because when you learn to say no, you begin to say yes only to what truly matters. No is the filter of your energy, the boundary that separates the essential from the superfluous, what builds from what merely consumes. Modern life pushes us toward accumulation of tasks, commitments, information, connections, and without realizing it, we end up living full of everything except ourselves. Stoicism teaches us that true freedom lies in mastering oneself, and this includes mastering one's time. Seneca said, "It's not that we have little time, it's that we waste so much." Every thoughtless yes is a piece of your life given over to something that doesn't empower you. Every request accepted out of guilt, every favor granted out of fear of disappointment, every distraction allowed out of lack of clarity, all of these cost a high price. The price is your peace. Saying no isn't rejecting the world, it's choosing your place within it. It's understanding that your attention is finite and therefore precious. When you try to please everyone, you end up being faithful to no one, not even yourself. Therefore, no is a form of self-love. It's not born of arrogance, but of awareness. And all awareness begins with a question. Does this serve my purpose, or does it just distance me from it? Epictetus said, "No man is free while he is a slave to the opinions of others." Saying no is exactly that, freeing yourself from the burden of approval. It's not an act of coldness, it's an act of direction. You don't close doors, you just leave open the ones that truly lead to your destination. But saying no requires courage. The courage to disappoint, to defy expectations, to be misunderstood. The fear of saying no stems from emotional childhood, that part of us that still believes we need to please others to be loved. But maturity means understanding that respect is born from limits, not from submission. Those who never say no end up being shaped by the will of others until they become invisible in their own lives. Think about it. How many times have you accepted something and then immediately felt a pang of unease inside? This unease is your integrity instinct trying to warn you that you've just betrayed yourself. Repeatedly ignoring it creates a cycle of fatigue and resentment. It's as if you're slowly selling your peace in small installments, and the payment comes in the form of exhaustion. Saying no is also an emotional discipline. It forces you to choose clearly, to think before responding, to evaluate whether what's being asked truly makes sense for your life at this point. Saying no to what's urgent but irrelevant is saying yes to what builds the future. It's understanding that each wrong choice occupies the space of a right choice that hasn't yet had a chance to exist. To practice, start small. You don't need to become a closed-off person, just more aware. When you receive an invitation, a request, or a proposal, don't respond immediately. Breathe, think. If it's a no, say it calmly and respectfully. A no said calmly is worth more than a yes said resentfully. And remember, every no is also a hidden yes. By saying no to empty chatter, you say yes to your clarity. By saying no to procrastination, you say yes to your evolution. By saying no to those who drain you, you say yes to those who add to you. The great art of life lies in balancing these two poles. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is unnecessary is the enemy of what is essential." This quote sums it all up. When you learn to protect your time like you protect a treasure, you discover you don't need to do more. You just need to do what truly matters with all your heart. So the next time you feel pressured to accept something, remember, your energy is not infinite, your presence is not mandatory, and your no is just as valuable as your yes. Right here in the comments, today I choose the essential. Because life truly changes when you stop dividing yourself between 1,000 directions and start walking firmly on the path that is only yours. 16. Measure what you control. Measuring what you control is the key to regaining peace in a world that pushes you to compete with the uncontrollable. Most people spend their entire lives measuring the wrong things: likes, followers, applause, opinions, comparisons. And then they wonder why they live tired, frustrated, and anxious. It's simple. When you measure what doesn't depend on you, you place your own worth in the hands of others. And when your worth depends on others, stability disappears. The Stoics knew this 2,000 years ago. Epictetus said, "Some things are within our control, others are not." This is the basis of mental freedom. When you focus on what you can adjust, your actions, your words, your attitudes, you find serenity. But when you focus on what is beyond your control, the outcome, the return, the judgment, you find suffering. The error is in confusing result with progress. The outcome doesn't always depend on you. Progress does. You can do everything right and still have something go wrong. You can work hard, study, and prepare, and still not be recognized. But if your focus is on the right metrics, it doesn't destroy you, it just teaches you. Internal progress is the only measure that never deceives you. So measure what truly strengthens you, not how many people noticed you, but how often you delivered on your promises. Not how many compliments you received, but how much action you took even without motivation. Not how much you achieved, but how much you grew. It's these quiet measures that shape character and sustain lasting success. Think of an athlete. They don't control the weather, the crowd, or the opponent, but they do control their training, their rest, their nutrition, their discipline. That's what keeps them prepared. The same goes for you. A disciplined mind is one that separates what can be done from what must be accepted. When you dedicate yourself to acting on what's in your hands, everything else loses its power. The problem is that the modern mind has been trained to measure appearance, not consistency. That's why many people feel like failures, even as they make progress. They don't realize they're evolving because they compare internal metrics with external victories. And no comparison is fair when the focus is on others. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "If the outcome does not depend on you, accept it as it is." This is the essence of Stoic serenity, acting with excellence and letting go of control over what does not belong to you. Because true success is not conquering the world, it is conquering yourself. And this is done with a simple change of lens. Start measuring effort, no reaction. Measure how many times you remained calm during a difficult conversation, how many times you worked without distractions, how many times you said no to the urge to quit. These are the metrics that show real progress, the ones no one sees, but that transform everything. Life changes when you start evaluating yourself with honesty and kindness. Honesty to see where you need to improve. Kindness to avoid punishing yourself while you learn. Because growth is a process, and each conscious attempt is a step forward, even when the results aren't yet visible. And if one day you feel stagnant, look back and see what you do naturally today that once seemed impossible. That's progress, that's mastery, that's quiet power, the kind of power that doesn't depend on approval because it's born of self-control. So from now on, replace how much I've achieved with how much I've evolved. Replace the search for validation with the search for consistency. And every time the world tries to measure you by standards that don't belong to you, breathe and repeat, I measure what I control. This is the metric of those who mature, of those who do not let themselves be shaken by applause or criticism. Because in the end, what defines your life isn't what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens. And that, yes, is completely under your control. 17. Practice aggressive patience. Patience is not passivity, it is strength under control. Most people associate patience with resigned waiting, as if it were synonymous with slowness, inaction, or conformity. But the Stoics saw it differently. For them, patience was a form of strategic power, a kind of active calm that observes, understands, prepares, and only then acts with precision. It is the balance between the warrior and the monk. It is knowing that haste breeds mistakes, and that the right timing multiplies the impact. This is the essence of aggressive patience, acting calmly, but never stopping, waiting, but always moving. Marcus Aurelius said, "Time is a river that carries everything away. You are part of it. Observe the flow, but don't fight it." The wise understand that strength lies not in running, but in maintaining the right pace, even when the world tries to rush you. Aggressive patience is the art of moving too slowly to be noticed, but fast enough to never stop. It's the kind of patience that builds empires silently, while the impatient burn energy trying to prove something at every turn. Think of an archer. They don't draw the bow in anger, nor release the arrow in haste. They breathe, observe the target, and wait for the exact moment when their body, focus, and breath align. This pause between effort and shot is what defines success. Aggressive patience works the same way. It's the discipline to prepare while others give up. It's working unhurriedly but with intention. It's acting with rhythm, not anxiety. The modern world, dominated by urgency, has convinced us that waiting is a waste of time. But in reality, waiting with purpose is an investment of time. The Stoics knew that everything truly solid takes time to emerge. A strong body, a reliable character, a consistent business, a calm mind, all these are the fruit of repetition and resilience. Seneca said, "Nothing becomes great all of a sudden." Therefore, those who cultivate aggressive patience understand that progress does not need to be visible to be real. Many give up because they confuse silence with stagnation, when in fact, silence is where the foundation is strengthened. But be careful. Aggressive patience isn't about standing still and waiting for fate to act. It's about taking action every day, even when results aren't yet visible. It's about planting, watering, and continuing to care for the soil, even when the field seems empty. Haste demands proof. Aggressive patience demands faith in the process. It's active because it doesn't settle, and aggressive because it doesn't give in to collective anxiety. While others expend energy on urgency, you channel it into consistency. Imagine a sculptor standing before a block of marble. From the outside, it appears that nothing changes for a long time, but inside, each precise stroke is shaping the final form. Impatience wants to see the statue finished. Aggressive patience knows that the rhythm of the chisel defines the beauty of the work. This same logic applies to life. Anything done in haste carries flaws. Anything done with conscious patience carries mastery. The secret is to learn to use time as an ally, not an enemy. Use the waiting periods to prepare. Use the silence of the results to improve your strategy. Use the boredom of long days to strengthen your discipline. Because when the right moment arrives, those who waited with action will be ready, while those who rushed will still be recovering from the mistakes of their haste. Epictetus taught, "No great power is born suddenly." And aggressive patience is just that, power in the making. It gives you the clarity to act when it's time and protects you from wasting energy when it's not. It's a kind of calm that observes chaos and responds with precision. It's waiting for the enemy to expend ammunition while you reload, observing in silence. Aggressive patience is the balance between movement and restraint. It is not the weak waiting of those who fear failure, but the firm waiting of those who understand time. It's what separates those who react from those who plan, those who seek recognition from those who build a legacy. So the next time you feel anxious about results, take a breath and repeat, "I keep going, even if I'm not in a rush." Because time doesn't reward those who run, it rewards those who stay. Write in the comments, "My patience is my power." Because in the end, the impatient reap quickly and little. But aggressive patience builds roots, and no one pulls them out. 18. Adjust the environment to accelerate the future. Environment shapes the mind more than willpower. That's why so many people start with motivation and end up directionless. Discipline doesn't thrive in chaos. It depends on structure. Your surroundings, the voices, the places, the routines, the distractions, act silently, but they define the rhythm of your life. If your space is cluttered, your mind will be cluttered. If your environment drags you down, there's no point in simply trying to think out loud. Real transformation doesn't just happen inside the head, it also happens outside of it, on the ground where the head rests. Epictetus said, "If you want to progress, avoid what weakens you." And this applies to everything: people, habits, sounds, information. The environment is like an energy field. It amplifies what you cultivate and sabotages what you ignore. If you want to accelerate the future, don't just wait for your mind to change. Change the environment in which it operates. Those who surround themselves with distractions absorb distractions. Those who surround themselves with the right stimuli grow almost without realizing it. Therefore, adjusting the environment is an act of practical intelligence. It's redesigning the terrain so that moving in the right direction becomes natural, not a constant struggle. Think of an athlete. They don't rely on luck to stay in shape. They create an environment that forces them to be disciplined. The training begins before they step into the gym. It's in their ready-made clothes, their water bottle at hand, their cell phone far from their bed. Everything around them conspires toward the same purpose, to facilitate what is essential and hinder what delays. The human mind follows the same logic. If the path to addiction is easy, it wins. If the path to focus is more accessible, it thrives. The environment is the invisible architect of your consistency. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul is colored by the thoughts with which it is occupied, and thoughts are shaped by the environment. Therefore, cleaning the environment is cleaning the mind. Remove the excess, reduce the noise, lessen the friction." A simple adjustment: An organized desk, a cell phone out of reach, a morning without notifications can completely alter the quality of your reasoning. What seems small is, in fact, what decides whether you will live in automatic mode or in conscious mode. But the environment isn't just physical, it's also social and digital. The people you associate with, the content you consume, the conversations you engage in, all of this plants invisible seeds in your mind. If you spend your day surrounded by complaints, scarcity, and irony, they infiltrate your thinking, even if you deny it. On the other hand, if you expose yourself to clarity, purpose, and action, you begin to absorb these patterns naturally. Stoic wisdom is simple yet radical. If you want to be better, hang out with those who live better. If you want to think big, feed on big ideas. Adjusting your environment is an act of humility and strategy. It's admitting that the mind is strong, but also easily influenced, and using that to your advantage. Don't rely solely on willpower. Rely on the engineering of space. Transform your surroundings into an extension of your goal. Make visible what reminds you of who you want to be, and hide what makes you regress. If you want to study, leave your book in plain sight. If you want to stop getting distracted, make it difficult to access your phone. If you want to wake up early, sleep with the curtains open. Small daily adjustments create great silent results. Seneca said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." Environment is the part of preparation that almost no one takes seriously. It's the invisible engine of consistency, and when you adjust it, progress stops depending on motivation and starts depending on structure, which is much more reliable. So look around you. What in your environment is dragging you down? What's distracting you, draining your energy, keeping you stuck? And most importantly, what can you change today? Not everything, but something. Start small, but start. Because every physical and mental adjustment is a daily reminder that the future you want won't arrive by chance. It will be built on the ground you prepare now. Write in the comments, "My environment works in my favor." Because the future does not belong to those in the greatest haste, but to those who have learned to build the right scenario so that progress becomes inevitable. 19. Rest as a discipline, not an escape. Resting isn't giving up, it's staying whole to keep going. The problem is that most people still confuse rest with escape. They don't stop to restore themselves, they hide from their own exhaustion. They shut down their bodies, but not their minds. They sleep, but wake up more tired. True rest isn't the absence of movement, it's total presence in the act of recovery. It's a conscious choice, not a distracted pause. It's discipline, not indulgence. Marcus Aurelius said, "Rest is part of the work," and he knew what few understand. Even the strongest mind needs rhythm. The warrior who never lowers his sword breaks his own arm. The body that never slows down exacts high interest later, and the mind that refuses to be still loses clarity and begins to act impulsively. Resting with purpose is part of the strategy of those who think long-term, because the right rest multiplies energy, while the wrong rest merely masks fatigue. There are two types of rest, the kind that strengthens you and the kind that numbs you. The first is active. It reorganizes, nourishes, and clears the noise. It can be deep silence, a slow walk, or a moment of unhurried reading. It's when you allow your mind to breathe, but without escaping its own path. The second is escape. It numbs you. It's the kind of rest that comes with guilt, addiction, and distraction. You rest by scrolling, drinking too much, hiding in endless series, and when you wake up, you're not lighter, you're just further away from yourself. The Stoics understood rest as an act of self-mastery. Epictetus said, "No man is free unless he can command himself." This includes the time to stop. Resting through discipline is choosing the right moment to pause, even when there is much to do, because you understand that a clouded mind errs more than a tired one. The difference lies in intention. When you rest out of fear, you sabotage yourself. When you rest out of wisdom, you prepare yourself. Patience and rest go hand in hand. Those who don't know how to pause also don't know how to maintain their own pace. Think of a high-performance athlete. They train intensely but respect recovery time, not because they're weak, but because they know their body needs to rebuild what the effort has torn. You don't just grow when you're doing, you also grow when you're rebuilding. Therefore, rest is part of progress. Ignoring rest is sabotage disguised as productivity. Seneca said, "Nothing is more foolish than sacrificing health to accumulate what can be lost." The rush to be tireless exacts a heavy price: loss of clarity, irritation, impulsive decisions, and chronic fatigue. It is at this point that rest ceases to be a luxury and becomes a responsibility. It is the invisible fuel of constancy. Without it, even the most solid discipline crumbles. But disciplined rest has a rule: it's planned, not improvised. You incorporate it into your routine as a commitment. Getting a good night's sleep is a priority, not a reward. Deep breathing is a practice, not an exception. Sunday is used to reflect, not just to escape Monday. Because those who rest with purpose don't return the same. They return more prepared, more lucid, more whole. Resting with discipline is a form of self-respect. It's saying, I want to go far, and to do that I need to get there alive. So, look at your routine. How much of your rest is real? How much of it is anesthesia? Don't wait for your body to scream to remind you to stop. Don't wait for your mind to collapse to remind you to be still. The right rest is what reconnects you with your purpose, not what makes you forget it. Marcus Aurelius also said, "The soul finds peace when it acts in harmony with nature, and nature lives in cycles, action and rest, strength and pause, day and night." Imbalance arises when we try to disrupt this rhythm. So the next time you stop, don't feel guilty. Feel presence. Don't hide from the effort. Be prepared to sustain it. Write in the comments, "I rest to stay strong," because disciplined rest isn't the end of productivity. It's what ensures it never ends. 20. Act like someone you've already decided to be. Your true change doesn't begin with pretty words. It begins with real actions. You can say 1,000 times that you're going to change, that now it's for real, but if you keep repeating the same behaviors and hiding behind the same excuses, your brain understands it's just another empty promise. The mind doesn't learn from what you desire. It learns from what you actually do. If you say, "I'll wake up early tomorrow," but then hit the snooze button, it records, "That's not important." If you say you'll exercise but always put it off, it records, "That desire isn't firm." And when even you stop believing your own word, everything starts to crumble inside, because nothing on the outside holds up when the internal foundation is cracked by incoherence. Think of someone who wants to be more focused. They make lists, watch productivity videos, repeat motivational phrases, but remain trapped in social media, laziness, and lack of direction. The will is there, but the actions tell a different story. Epictetus said, "Do not pride yourself on knowing what must be done. Knowledge without action changes no one." True transformation doesn't come from grand speeches. It begins with small daily actions: turning off your cell phone at the right time, keeping a simple promise, overcoming laziness with movement, finishing what you started even without the will. Want to be more confident? Then stop harboring doubt with every gesture. Want to be disciplined? Act like someone who values their own time. Want to have more presence? Be fully where you are without half your attention lost elsewhere. You won't suddenly become strong. You'll become strong because you choose to act firmly, even when you're tired, even when no one applauds you. That's why so many people stop halfway. They wait for confidence to emerge before action. But the secret is the opposite. You start feeling different only when you start acting differently. Abundant and determined people understand this. They don't wait for motivation to fall from the sky. They move first, and confidence comes later in response to that movement. If you're reading this far, it's because something inside you has already awakened. You've left automatic mode, started to notice your own patterns, and that's the first step toward true change. You don't need to become perfect tomorrow, but you do need to prove with small, firm actions that you're serious about your evolution. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't waste any more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one." So, stop waiting for courage to come on its own. Think like someone who already lives abundantly. Act like someone who is already achieving real results. And repeat this every day until the world has no choice but to recognize what you are becoming. Comment here, "I'm living like someone who has already won." Because the world doesn't respond to what you promise, it responds to what you do. And if this message resonated with you, share it with someone who's also ready for a change. Sometimes a single true sentence is worth more than 1,000 plans that never come to fruition. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next video.